Good evening, folks. How are you? Messenger Christopher Spirit World X the Mahdi. I want to thank you for joining me, and I certainly want to welcome you to the last and final shifts of the Worldwide Paradigm Shift Show.
Well, then who did create the heavens and the earth? Why do you use the word who? You see, you immediately beg the question by using the word who. Well, then how did it get created? Well, by a very slow process. Well, how did it start? Nobody knows how it started. We know the kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life. And what was that? It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule. Right, and how did that happen? I've told you we don't know.
The Great Deception.
Nor has anyone. Nor has anyone else. How did we get from an inorganic world?
The inverting of your electrochemical magnetic reality.
Started off on the backs of crystals. Molecules piggybacked on the back of crystals forming, and that this led to more and more complex. But of course, the nice thing about crystals is every now and then you get mistakes, mutations, and that this opens the way for natural selection.
And don't forget, folks,
there was not a living thing. Yeah. Then there was a living thing. How did that happen? Well, this is I just told you. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go from very simple to more and more complex to more and more complex. I don't either, but I don't know how you get from mud
program
to a living cell. That's my question. Yes, well, I've told you. I think it's on try one more time.
Brought to you
of the backs of crystals is at least one hypothesis.
By
so that's your theory, and you think that is more likely and less far-fetched than
the High Council of the Crystal Keys. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the show.
Moving through history in an unguided and undesigned way, the theory of evolution.
Excuse me?
Yes, Ben.
How did life begin in the first place?
Mr. Stein, you have the same question every time.
Well, you never answered, sir.
It developed this. You know, we've been through this so many times. You haven't.
Could there have been an intelligent designer?
I'd like to thank Mr. Ben Stein and of my friends at Biblical Correctness Ministries for the assistance in providing us with this wonderful information. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask that you please use discernment throughout this clip and ask yourself, why? Why the great conspiracy to hide the evolutionary processes? The purpose of our existence is the reason. You are not meant to understand the purpose of your existence. Whether you are a fail-safe protocol bloodline, which would be the European, the Chinese, the Indian, the Arab, the Spanish, or whether you or whether you are the melanated bloodline, radio frequency, or a bloodline that carries the radio frequency that brought the rest. And you'll find that out watching this clip, you will realize that the great conspiracy to keep you deaf, dumb, and third eye blind, only 5 sensory aware, is very real. Folks, we're about to head to the most profound, compelling, comprehensive shift in the show. I ask everyone to please brace yourselves. I understand that you have a lot of anxiety in respect to the present world instability and the chaos. However, with knowledge, you can reverse all of these negative effects. So, please open your ears, open your mind, and get ready to grow and expand your intelligence.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. The battle over evolution is only one skirmish in a much larger war.
Science simply makes no use of the hypothesis of God.
Ask yourself, what does intelligent design give us? Nothing. We cannot accept intelligent design as an alternative scientific theory.
They will never accept that we have a better argument. They just pester us and they waste our time.
Today, Ben is speaking on the topic that has become increasingly important to him over recent years. While Ben has always been an ardent supporter of science, lately he has noticed an alarming trend in the scientific establishment that can have dire consequences for every American. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome for Mr. Ben Stein.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, gangsters. Thank you very, very much. Freedom is the essence of America. We're talking about freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom from fear, freedom of religion. Martin Luther King said, America is essentially a dream, and he said it is a dream of freedom and equality, and freedom is the way to equality. And America simply would not be America without freedom. In every turning point in our history, the decision has always been about freedom.
Freedom is what makes this country great. Freedom has allowed us to create, to explore, to overcome every challenge we have faced as a nation.
But imagine if these freedoms were taken away. Where would we be? What would we lose?
Well, unfortunately, I no longer need to imagine. It's happening. We are losing our freedom in one of the most important sectors of society, science. I have always assumed that scientists were free to ask any question, to pursue any line of inquiry without fear of reprisal. But recently, I've been alarmed to discover that this is not the case. It all began when I met evolutionary biologist Richard Sternberg in Washington, D.C. His life was nearly ruined when he strayed from the party line while serving as editor of a scientific journal affiliated with the prestigious Smithsonian Museum of Natural History.
Your office was over there?
That's correct. This here is the West Wing. Directly ahead of us is the West Wing of the Natural History Museum.
So now you're not there anymore because you're a bad boy.
No, I'm not. No, I was exiled.
You're a bad boy. You question the powers that be. What was Dr. Sternberg's crime? He dared to publish an article by Dr. Stephen Meyer, one of the leading lights of the intelligent design movement. The paper ignited a firestorm of controversy merely because it suggested intelligent design might be able to explain how life began. As a result, Dr. Sternberg lost his office, his political and religious beliefs were investigated, and he was pressured to resign.
The questioning of Darwinism was a bridge too far for many. The mentioning of intelligent design that occurs at the end of the paper was over the top. And I think the intelligent design proponents have raised a number of very important questions.
And you wanted to get those questions brought up and discussed.
Placed on the table.
Placed on the table.
People were so upset about it. They were so upset that you could see they had a physical emotional reaction.
Wow.
They were saying that Stephen C. Meyer is a
The desperation.
Stephen C. Meyer is an intelligent design proponent. That Stephen C. Meyer is a Republican.
In keeping the great secret.
All counts in terms of religion, politics, and sociology.
Of the Masonic order.
The way the chair of the department put it is that
And the Black Bullet.
Viewed as an intellectual terrorist.
Terrorist.
Because of giving the topic of intelligent design some modicum of credibility.
What happened to Dr. Sturman was terrible, but surely it was just an isolated case. I was still pretty skeptical, so naturally I checked in with the head of the Skeptic Society, Michael Shermer.
So I can't prove there is no God or Yahweh in your case, any more than I can prove there is no Isis, Zeus, Apollo, Brahma, Ganesha, Mithras, Allah, or for that matter, the flying spaghetti monster. And think about just one thing. Why would the aliens look like this?
Well,
These are bipedal. Skepticism, it's not a position you take. It's just an approach to claims.
This one's called the borderlands of science, where sense meets nonsense. Is intelligent design nonsense?
Well, it's unproven, so in that sense, it's nonsense. So I would put it in the sort of shaded areas between good, solid science and total nonsense. You know, it's sort of 3/4 of the way toward the nonsense side.
But you think, nevertheless, people should be allowed to speak about and publish papers about it?
They are free to write and publish and be heard in public forums and go to conferences just like everybody else does.
Well, what if a person published something, say at the Smithsonian, in favor of intelligent design, and then lost his job over it? And it had been peer-reviewed, and published, and then he lost his job over it anyway. What would happen? What do you think about that situation?
I think that particular situation, there was something else going on.
What was going on?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know. But I think there had to be something. People don't get fired over something like that. You roll up your sleeves, you get to work, you do the research, you get your grants, you get your data, you publish, and you work your butt off, and that's how you get your theories taught.
Well, wait a minute. What if you try and roll up your sleeves and go to work and work your butt off, and they say, well, we're going to fire you if you even mention the word intelligent design?
I don't think that's happened. Where is that happening?
George Mason University. Throughout its 50-year history, our mission has remained clear: to prepare a diverse population of students to think and to grow in a climate of unbridled academic freedom.
After Dr. Caroline Crocker simply mentioned intelligent design in her cell biology class at George Mason University, her promising academic career came to an abrupt end.
My supervisor invited me into his office. He said, I'm going to have to discipline you for teaching creationism. And I said, I mentioned intelligent design on a couple of slides, but I did not teach creationism. He said, nonetheless, you have to be disciplined. At the end of the semester, I lost my job.
Not only did this well-loved professor lose her job at George Mason, she suddenly found herself blacklisted, unable to find a job anywhere.
So whenever I interviewed for a job, I would be offered it, usually on the spot. Since this has happened, and since people can Google my name, I'm finding that when I send my credentials, I do get interviews. I get many interviews, but I never get offered a job. I don't tell them about my science sin. I was only trying to teach what the university stands for, which is academic freedom.
There's nothing to be learned in neurosurgery by assuming an accidental origin for the parts of the brain that we work on.
It wasn't just biologists who were feeling the Darwinist wrath. When neurosurgeon Michael Egnor wrote an essay to high school students saying doctors didn't need to study evolution in order to practice medicine, the Darwinists were quick to try and exterminate this new threat.
A lot of people on a lot of blogs called me unprintable names unprinted. There are a lot of very, very nasty comments. Other people suggested that people call the university I work at and suggested perhaps it's time for me to retire. I realized when I kind of went public with my doubts about the adequacy of Darwin's theory that I would have kind of criticism. What has amazed me is the viciousness and the sort of baseness of it.
I'm an old guy and I have
tenure. I'm academically safe. But the young people and what is happening to them in America right now because of this scientism gulag is really terrible.
Apparently, Professor Marks was not as safe as he thought. A few months after this interview, Baylor University shut down his research website and forced him to return grant money once they discovered a link between his work and intelligent design.
In order to attract grants, you have to market yourself. So you put up sites and call yourself labs and groups and things like that in order to get visibility. And in my entire experience in academia, I never went to any superior and asked them any permission to put up any of these labs. So the fact that this was singled out, let alone shut down, is jaw-dropping. It's astonishing. I have never been treated like this in my about 30 years in academia.
Shut up, you freak! I say shut up!
If you peel back the onion, I think that there's no doubt that the center of this is my work in what some would call intelligent design.
People really get emotional about this. When you were saying intelligent design in a room of academics, them's fighting words.
Creationists. Astronomer Guillermo Gonzalez found himself in a fierce shootout with Iowa State University following the publication of his book, arguing that the universe is intelligently designed. Despite a stellar research record that has led to the discovery of several planets, his application for tenure was denied, putting his career in jeopardy.
I worried about my tenure a little bit in 2005 when the petition was being circulated because I viewed that as a strategy of Hector Avalos and his associates to try to poison the atmosphere on campus against me because he knew I wasn't tenured yet and I was very vulnerable. I have little doubt that I would have tenure now if I hadn't done any professional work on intelligent design.
Dr. Gonzalez had this advice for scientists who might be thinking about following his example.
If they value their careers, they should keep quiet about their intelligent design views.
We know there are times and places to be quiet, and other times and places when we can make noise if we want to.
Will you show us?
Of course. Boys and girls, how would you like to show some of the ways we know of being quiet?
It's the kind of thing where you just learn to keep your mouth shut.
In addition to those scientists who were willing to appear on camera, we encountered many more who didn't dare show their face for fear of losing their jobs.
You use an intelligent design perspective to get the research done, but you're not allowed to talk about it.
Will we remain weak
An incentive, if you think about it,
under the pressure
in the mainstream.
of the unconscious attempting to subdue our awareness?
They hear creationism. They hear religious right. They hear theocracy.
So it appears Mr. Shermer, the
Will we allow these corrupted minds, these corrupted spirits to
systematic and ruthless fashion. But maybe intelligent design
deny us the reality of the purpose of our
But on the other hand, we don't want
existence in this evolutionary program?
It was time to ask the scientific establishment what was so bad about intelligent design.
Intelligent design people are not genuine scientists.
Intelligent design is a racket.
It's just propaganda.
The only intelligent thing about it is to got people to pull it that.
It's really very stupid as well. Everybody knows science education in America is appalling. What we don't need at this time is intelligent design in the classrooms.
Because they don't want you to know that everything here is purposed into existence, including the 5 sensory aware radio frequency conscious control, counterbalancing conscious control that exists within our European bloodline, or colonizing bloodlines.
Get intelligent design in the schools today, and we can have school prayers tomorrow.
Any other complaints?
Can you imagine anything more boring? The boredom attached to ID is supreme. It is so long that I can't even bother to think about it. It's just utterly boring.
You see, folks, without intelligent design, you have no purpose for balance, stability, soundness of mind.
But none of it was directed toward intelligent design. There seemed to be a lot to hate about it.
Everything just popped into existence, and it doesn't matter how we function with everything that just popped into existence, because none of it matters.
Doing the intelligent design, they're all varnish and no product.
The Discovery Institute is a propaganda mill. It's an institution designed to suck in money from religious investors and turn it into a sanitized, somewhat secular version of the creation story to get it into the schools.
If they have a way of understanding nature that's superior to the one that we all are making lots of discoveries using, great. Bring it on.
We are really, really lost.
I think it's on third. I think it's down there. I have no idea where this place is. I guess I'll just keep walking. Do you have any idea where the Discovery Institute is? Have you ever heard of that? Never heard of it. Okay, thank you. How are you, sir? Good. Do you have any idea where the Discovery Institute is?
It's not a clue. Discovery Institute.
Thank you. It's my time to get off.
Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you, sir. It's got to be this whole building. Yes, where is the Discovery Institute?
Discovery Institute in First Street, 808.
Okay. Very good. Aha! Success at last. Aha! We found you. Are you Bruce Chapman? I am. How are you on the inside? Well, kind of good to have me here. I'm delighted to meet you. Can I look around and see your options? Absolutely.
Do you just have this floor, or do you have several other floors as well?
No, this is it. This is it? You made an awful lot of trouble for being in such a small office. I thought it was going to be like the Pentagon.
We're like the little boy that said the emperor has no clothes. And he didn't have a big organization either.
When you go around and raise funds, your people are not saying to them, by the way, we're going to get all these scientists out of the classroom and put Christ back in the classroom.
Well, I don't know that Christ has ever been in the science classroom. This is not a religious argument. This is something that people, we have fellows who are Jewish or agnostic or various other things. There are people, there are Muslim scientists, there are people in all kinds of backgrounds who agree that Darwin's theory has failed. And so why would you bring religion into it? You don't need religion. This is a red herring. And people who don't have an argument are reduced to throwing sand in your
Well,
eyes.
if the Discovery Institute could get its wish about this subject, what would your wish be?
Well, on this subject, as on others, we'd like people to be able to have a robust dialogue and even a debate where the evidence, best evidence, but in this case, the best scientific evidence is made available to people.
Well, surely no one questions there should be a debate.
Oh, yes, they do.
They do?
They say the debate has been settled.
Well,
that the issue's
when
settled.
was the debate settled?
Ben, I'd like you to talk to the scientists. You don't want to get your science from me.
Mr. Chapman claimed ID.
You see, religion correlates directly to
formerly known as the Bible Institute of Los Angeles.
I just wanted you to hear that part, and I also kind of forgot what I was going to say, but the reason why they don't want religion to be something taught, especially now, at this very magnetic time, is because religion correlates to consciousness. It creating the chemical reality that we exist in, the chemical body we exist in. Religion ties us and connects us, once again, to the unseen.
How much money have you ever gotten from Jerry Falwell?
$0.
How about Pat Robertson?
The unseen creative mind.
No.
Immortal, infinite mind.
Youth pastor.
Oh,
I did teach Sunday school once.
Has this all been resolved? I mean, aren't we all Darwinists now?
And the fact that this is a spiritual reality
It's a funny thing that
in a electrochemical, magnetic, immortal life support creation matrix genetic evolutionary program that we are in.
My experience has been that many evolutionary biologists will say, yeah, this theory's got a lot of problems.
So you mean to tell me that there really is a debate among scientists about
in the lowest division of our Trinity, which exists as the lowest division of our Trinity.
How one defines it. If it means
so this is a spiritual reality and we're having just a chemical experience in it. But they only want you to be familiar with the chemical side of things. What you see, touch, taste, smell, and hear is how you should define any value in anything.
That's textbook definition of neo-Darwinism. Biologists of the first rank have real questions.
But the modern theory of intelligent design is just microwaved creationism.
I don't think that's the case. Creationism, properly understood, begins with the Bible and says, how can I fit the Bible into the data of science? Intelligent design doesn't do that. Intelligent design is the study of patterns in nature that are best explained as a result of intelligence.
So intelligent designers believe that God is the designer?
Not necessarily. Intelligent design is a minimal commitment scientifically to the possibility of detecting intelligent causation.
Dr. Nelson didn't sound like a crazy person, but I still suspect Ivy is nothing but reading creationism. My next stop didn't seem like it was going to alleviate those fears.
I didn't crawl out of the ocean, I didn't come from no monkey. Besides, tends to forget evolution's just a theory that presented in the...
And what amazes me, folks, is that the dark side of our European brotherhood, they will even destroy the lives of their own citizenry.
Evolution is, from an intelligent design perspective, is
to keep themselves alive through the melanated, magnetically misaligned frequency, continuously existing, only so that they can go out and get drunk, smoke a carton of cigarettes a week, have sex anytime they want to, destroy the environment that we need, that millions of us individuals who have nothing to survive with need to survive on. They're doing all this so that they can have a party, folks. They'll destroy even their own families just to see another day in the mirror,
What made these guys think they had the
being the man.
I put this question to Dr. Stephen.
Oh, mercy, mercy me. Things ain't what they used to be. After this moment, enjoy the rest of the show. Folks, we're going to go to the second part of this show here very shortly, in about 4 minutes, and hope you've enjoyed it so far. We're almost at the crescendo. I promise you, I will not let you down. Your mind's going to be blown backwards. I can assure you of this.
That's correct.
Trust my words.
Darwin is also buried.
And it's going to be a lot more than you expected. All of the information you're going to receive. It will be a total mind-blowing overload. So, congratulate yourself for hanging in there all the way to the end.
It may seem a little cheeky, but it's what scientists are supposed to do. When I was in Cambridge, one of my supervisors often advised us to beware the sound of one hand clapping, which was a way of saying if there's an argument on one side, there's bound to be an argument on the other. And what I found in studying the structure of the argument in The Origin of Species is that for every evidence-based argument for one of Darwin's two key propositions, there is an evidence-based counter-argument.
Well, but is it a debate? I mean, there's just you and a couple of other guys in a dinky little office going down. Say on one side, And there's the faculties of all the great universities in the world on the other
Speaking
side.
with a great uniform and
Yes.
authoritative voice.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the debate really isn't going to be settled by numbers. It's going to be settled by the evidence and the arguments.
While I was still in Bill Gates' country, Dr. Meyer recommended I check in with molecular biologist Jonathan Wells. What kind of names they call you?
Creationist.
What do you say back to them when they say you're a creationist?
Well, I usually don't get the opportunity.
What's at stake for you personally here?
First of all, I love science. I think the way Darwinism corrupts the evidence, distorts the evidence, is bad for science.
The distortion of the evidence, the great conspiracy.
Because you're sort of being a bomb thrower into science.
I am upsetting the apple cart, and I think it deserves to be upset in this case.
The great Masonic
Because
apple
evidence is
cart.
being distorted to prop up a theory that I think doesn't fit it.
Was Darwinism really that bad? Perhaps a change of scenery would give me a fresh perspective.
Oh, wonderful Perry. Never been there. It'd probably be a nice experience. Just the land, not the infrastructure, just the land.
So where are you from originally?
I was born in New York.
Yes.
Spent 31 years in Manhattan.
Yes.
And I spent a lot of time in California too.
And tell me all the various universities where you studied or taught.
I was at Princeton, then I had a professorship at Stanford, and then I left Stanford and I taught at Rutgers. I left Rutgers and I taught at the City College in New York. I left the City College of New York. I taught at the Baruch College. I taught at San
What did you
Jose.
teach at Baruch College?
Anything they wanted. Come on in.
Thank you, monsieur.
What an old building.
Wow.
It's the oldest in Paris.
You're kidding. Merci, monsieur.
Ah, je vous en prie, monsieur.
Merci. Wow, this is fabulous.
Let's put it this way. Before you can ask, is Darwinian theory correct or not, you have to ask the preliminary question, is it clear enough so that it could be correct? That's a very different question. One of my prevailing doctrines about Darwinian theory is, man, that thing is just a mess. It's like looking into a room full of smoke. Nothing in the theory is precisely, clearly, carefully defined and delineated. It lacks all of the rigor one expects from mathematical physics, and mathematical physics lacks all the rigor one expects from mathematics. So we're talking about a gradual descent down the level of intelligibility until we reach evolutionary biology. We don't even know what a species is, for heaven's sakes.
So his theory is smoke, but elegant smoke.
There's a certain elegance to it, but I think Einstein had the appropriate remark. He preferred to leave elegance to his tailor.
A room full of smoke? That certainly wasn't what I was hearing from prominent Darwinists like Richard Dawkins.
Evolution is a fact. It's a fact which is established as securely as essentially